Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Manny, in case you're new here, or welcome back. Today I am going to be doing another reflection video on my third year at UBC. I'm back in the same spot as my last reflection video, talking about my entire year and all the good things and bad things that came with it. If you're interested in learning more about what an in-person experience at UBC is like, I highly suggest you check out my other reflection video from last year where I reviewed my second year at UBC. It'll be tagged somewhere up in the corner, I'm not sure. I wasn't gonna do this video for the longest time, but I figured I would still actually do a reflection video because I wanted to still remember what my third year was like, and also I feel like I did learn a lot even though school was completely online this year. This video is obviously going to be different from my last reflection video. If you didn't watch it, I reviewed my year chronologically from September to April and talked about the main events, but since this year everything was online and the whole year felt like a blur, I'm just going to be going through each of the main categories and reflecting. So I'm going to have three parts of this video. I'm going to have academic, personal life, and work life, and kind of just talk through my growths and struggles and good things that have come out of this year. Without further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to start with reviewing my academic side of my school year. Obviously, this is a huge part of any person's university life. This year was really special because I got to start taking commerce courses for my commerce minor. In case you don't know, I'm a third year, or just finished third year, and I'm majoring in psychology and minoring in commerce. So third year and fourth year is when you get to take the courses for your minor, basically. And I was really excited and just looking forward to all the commerce courses that I got to take. So before I go over my actual courses that I took this year, I'm going to give a little bit of context. I've actually taken online courses before, and I've taken asynchronous classes before in second year and also the summer after first year, so it's not like a completely new thing for me. I actually really enjoyed taking online courses when we were in person because I feel like it gave me a lot of flexibility with my schedule and also just allowed me to be more flexible with my learning as well, which I really enjoyed. So this online thing wasn't a completely new thing to me. I was kind of used to it. That being said, having all of your courses online is definitely a different experience, also combined with the different effects of the pandemic, mental health things, like not being able to see my friends. All of those combined did kind of make a more difficult year, but just looking at classes alone, I was quite used to having online classes before because I've done them. For my course load, I'm going to go over what I took in first semester as well as second semester. So in first semester, I decided to take Introduction to Financial Accounting, Commerce 457. I also took Commerce 329, which is Principles of Organizational Behavior. I took one psychology class, which was Psych 413, which was Social and Personality Development. And then also I was doing a full year course this year, so that was Psych 304, which is Brain and Behavior. So in first semester, about half of my classes were asynchronous and half of them had real live lectures. So both of my psych courses I was allowed to do on my own time. We didn't have lecture time and I could do those whenever I wanted. And then with the commerce courses that I had, we had in-class lectures, tutorials, and stuff like that. I honestly can say that this year I've probably enjoyed my classes the most. They were very, very enjoyable in terms of class content and stuff like that, but it was very, very difficult on the other side of it. For courses specifically, having online courses means most likely that they're going to be open book exams, which makes the types of questions on the exam a lot harder. So in my best way of explaining this, usually in-person exams, about half the content is definition memorization based, can you remember the definitions of stuff, and then the other half of the exam is more application based questions in my experience. This is obviously based on my own experience. Every course is a little bit different, but with online exams they decided to have a lot of open book exams, but then the questions are a lot more application based or upper level thinking, which is obviously more difficult and just takes a lot more time to write and think about during an exam time. With all this being said, my grades weren't super high in the first semester. My commerce courses weren't that good. I really actually enjoyed both of my commerce courses. They were probably some of my favorite classes this year, but they were also my two lowest grades this year just because of the way that the course was structured and a lot of external factors. One of the things being that I was super unmotivated at the end of the semester with just Vancouver weather. I don't know if you're from Vancouver, but in the winter, Vancouver gets really gloomy and dark and rains basically every day. And for me, I'm a very driven by light person. When I'm studying, I love to have the most light possible, so when it's super dark outside, it makes me really unmotivated to study, and I just really don't want to do that. I think the outside environment combined with like not being able to see my friends, being home all day, not being able to go to the gym for workouts and stuff like that, just combined to my eventual burnout by the end of the first semester. That being said, when I got my grades back in a first semester, I looked at them and I was like, oh, maybe I should not be taking such a heavy course load. So I decided to drop 2 of my core courses and take some electives. I had to take more electives in 4th year. I was just gonna take them a little later anyway. So I decided to swap out some of the psych and commerce courses that I was gonna take for electives. So instead of taking 2 psych and 2 commerce courses in 2nd semester like I was planning to, I decided to take 1 psych course, 1 commerce course, a computer science course, and a creative writing course. So in 2nd semester, I continued on my Psych 304, which was my full year course. I took Introduction to Marketing, which was Commerce 465, and I took Comp Sci 103, which is Introduction to Systematic Programming, and Creative Writing 200, which is like the first Introduction to Creative Writing course. I didn't really have a reason why for the electives that I chose other than I was very interested in them ever since 1st year, and also I heard that they were like grade boosters. To be honest, I knew creative writing was like a grade booster. Everyone told me like, oh, it's an easy 90, like you're gonna do well, stuff like that. And then Comp Sci was honestly out of pure interest, I decided to take it. I was like, oh, I've been interested in this since 2nd year. A lot of my friends took Comp Sci in 2nd year and I didn't, and I was like, oh, sounds very interesting. And since I have the chance now, I'm gonna take it. That being said, GPA boosters are never as easy as I think they will be. I've honestly learned this the hard way a couple times already, and I don't know why I keep like thinking that it's gonna be different, but GPA boosters, in case you're wondering, they are like probably easier to get good grades, but you still have to put in like effort to getting the good grade. For my creative writing course, I just had really low expectations and I thought like it'd be really easy to get a 90, but I think with the pandemic, they changed the structure of the course and it was just a little more difficult and I had to put in more effort that I was not ready to, for sure. But that being said, both of the courses and all 4 of the courses that I took in 2nd semester were really amazing and enjoyable, and I really liked them, and I think the combination of core courses with electives made it a lot easier for me to re-fall in love with learning and just enjoying what I'm doing at school. All in all, I would say that I really enjoyed this year in terms of academics wise. It was very hard with having all online classes, but I do feel like there were some pros out of it. It was a lot easier to get questions asked in office hours or in tutorial because there's less of a barrier, I guess. For my comp sci tutorial specifically, for example, they had breakout rooms during tutorial for you to go in with the TA and just ask the questions one-on-one, which I feel like was never an experience given in person and made a lot of people like me who might be more shy an opportunity to ask questions. I would also say that taking electives really balanced out my workload. In 1st year and in 1st semester of 3rd year, I was really focused on kicking out my requirements for graduation and taking all the hardest classes possible first, and I got really burnt out by the end of 1st semester 3rd year, obviously, because I've been taking the same thing for the last year and a half. So having these elective courses to branch out and just divest your brain energy was a really good thing for me. I really just enjoyed it, fell in love with learning again, as I said. I don't know how I can reword it in a better way, but it just made it really enjoyable because although I really love psychology and I love commerce, that's why I'm majoring and minoring in these topics, I also can get sick of them if that's all I'm doing for the a straight year, you know? I would say my ultimate favorite classes of the year were Introduction to Computer Science, my Comp Sci 103, Psych 413, which was Social and Personality Development, because this course specifically was asynchronous and it allowed you to do your own research in your own time on topics that you were more interested in. Also, I think the topics provided from the prof were really, really interesting and just things that I really liked. And then my other favorite course was Commerce 465, which was Introduction to Marketing. These were courses that I genuinely wanted to spend my own time learning about and I didn't mind doing because they were just so fun to me. And that's the only thing that I can ask for when I'm in school, is that I enjoy what I'm doing. I've always been a person that firmly believes that what you enjoy should come before your grades. So I know a lot of people tend to take courses that are oh, I know this is an easy 90, but I don't even enjoy this class. I've never really been that type of person. Even if I am doing something for the grade, it's also something that I really enjoy. And usually for me personally as well, like the things that I enjoy, the courses that I like the most are also the courses that I tend to do the best on, which is interesting, not a causation thing, but definitely a correlation thing. The other huge thing that I've been focusing at the end of third year is what I'm doing post-graduation of university, which is a really scary thought. I only have one more year of university left, which is terrifying to think about, but it is something that I need to think about eventually because a lot of people do preparations for after graduation during fourth year. Now, I don't have a plan in mind. I don't really know. I did have like an idea of what I wanted to do before COVID hit, but after the pandemic, I think it's taught me that plans can change in the blink of an eye, and it's always good to have like a plan B in case. All I can say right now is for sure after I graduate, I want to take some time off school, and I am interested in going back to grad school, but that's not going to be like right after fourth year for sure because I need a break. Now we move on to the more personal side of things with my third year. There's only really one big thing that I want to touch on in this topic, and it's that in third year I started going to therapy more regularly. For UBC students, because we have this healthcare policy that you can pay for at the beginning of the year, we were actually allowed to have $1,000 worth of mental health services reimbursed. So that meant if you were like having counseling sessions, or I don't know what else you would do, like UBC would pay for up to $1,000 of that, which I thought was an amazing policy this year because it really gave students like access to mental health services if they haven't tried it before or weren't going to try it, or you know, just stuff like that. It's not a perfect policy obviously, but I think it's a lot better because it gives a lot of students access to these services that might not have them otherwise. Now, for people who aren't as familiar with therapy, I'm going to try and explain it to you as best as I can, but that being said, therapy is different for everyone, and my experience might be super different from your experience or someone else's experience that you know. Because although I feel like therapy and mental health services and mental health in general has really increased in popularity and a lot of more people are talking about it these past few years, I feel like there's also like still a stigma around it, and not a lot of people know about this whole thing in general. So I'm just going to start with saying that you don't need to have like gone through a traumatic event or something bad to merit going to therapy. It can just be a place for you to talk to someone about whatever's going on in your life, and it can just be like a mental health check-in every couple of weeks. For me, I love it because it just provides a space where I can talk about what happens in my life and objectively receive opinions and like maybe further questions to kind of dive deep into these topics that I might not be able to look at from my perspective, for example. It's just a place that you can learn more about your behaviors, your feelings, your emotions, just the things that go on in your life, and not feel like you need, like there's any judgment in that space. It's a really safe space for me personally, and I feel like I can talk about anything that goes on in my life. Obviously, this doesn't start like right at the beginning with your counselor. It takes a bit of time to build up trust and just that relationship that you can talk about anything. So I only go like every 2 weeks to honestly like every month or so. I don't really go super regularly, but every time that I do go, I update my counselor on events that have happened in my life, whether they are good or bad, and kind of break down the bad events and kind of what I'm feeling about them and stuff like that. In the past, I've talked about my parents getting divorced and how I felt about that. Like how to set boundaries, and also just like outgrowing old friendships. These are all topics that I've talked about with my counselor, and honestly they're super deep, but that's because I've had a long-term relationship with my counselor. I've been seeing him for over a year, and that space that I have curated with my counselor is just super safe, and we can talk about anything that I want. And these are just kind of topics that I enjoy talking about. I enjoy talking about like learning about myself, learning about the social relationships that I have around me in my life, and also just this pandemic has made me feel very different than before, for sure. But those are just some examples. As I said before, therapy looks different for everyone, and depending on your life and your circumstances, you can talk about anything you want. Like honestly, I've heard my counselor tell me that people just sit there for an hour and not say anything, and that is their hour of counseling for that week. So it's honestly up to you, whatever you want to do. I personally am like, well, I'm paying money to see this guy, I don't want to sit in silence. But yeah, I really enjoy counseling, and I honestly cannot like recommend it enough. I've had friends that reach out to me and ask about like, oh, I'm interested in therapy too, like can you get me started, and what do you talk about and stuff like that. And everyone that I've talked to about starting therapy has really enjoyed it afterwards. So I feel like a therapy advocate, honestly, in my life to my friends. And the reason that I love therapy so much is just I have like visually seen how much I've grown in this year. This whole pandemic thing has made me feel a lot more anxious, as I'm sure a lot of people have this past year. So I've learned a lot about how to manage my emotions and how to manage my anxiousness, and also just how to deal with situations and things that I might have to deal with that I've never done before. Therapy has also led me to be like just more aware of my feelings and myself in general. If I am feeling uncomfortable in a situation or anything like that, I'll talk about it and maybe dive deep into why I feel that way, and if that's like because of my past or because of some certain emotion that I'm feeling. There's honestly so much that you can learn in therapy, and it's all about learning about yourself, which I think is really important. So if you're interested, I highly suggest you try it out. If you're a UBC student in particular, obviously during the year we get mental health coverage, and there is an entire website for UBC mental health services. That being said, I know UBC's mental health coverage is not perfect, and for a lot of people it might seem inaccessible. In those cases, honestly, I would suggest looking at BetterHelp. This is not sponsored, but I've heard about BetterHelp from other influencers, and it sounds like a really amazing program where you can get mental health services online, and it's so much more accessible. But yeah, I honestly believe that checking it out and trying one session does not do you any harm. That's my recommendation from this video. And the last category that I want to cover in this video is talking about work life. As you may know, I'm not sure if you're new here or not, I used to have 3 part-time jobs as a student. I'm a math tutor at like a math franchise place. I was a behavioral interventionist, so that job was working with little kids with autism to develop their sensory and motor and verbal skills. And then I'm also a dance teacher on the weekends. Let me talk about this real quick. So first semester, I was working all 3 jobs, and I was also balancing 4 courses and being in a sorority and having a club position and just life in general. It was very stressful because I was working upwards of 20 hours a week, maybe around 20 hours a week, but this was not including commute time and all this stuff. And it was very, very difficult to balance everything. Once I got home from work, I felt like I just wanted to lay in bed. I couldn't do any homework because I was so exhausted. And it was just not a good time. That's also why I feel like I was really unmotivated in first semester, was just because I was so exhausted all the time from working so much. So it was not a good time. Luckily, with the onset of more COVID restrictions in November, I remember that I stopped my BI job temporarily just because we were working in the client's home and just like in very close contact, so I didn't really want to risk it. I also think that this year the biggest thing that I learned was that if you don't enjoy something, there's no point in continuing it on if you can in your personal circumstances. And also, I heard this really good quote was that like the universe will give you energy for things that you are meant to do. So let me dive deep into both of those things. For my BI job in particular, because that was the job that I eventually ended up quitting by the end of the year, I early on found myself not really enjoying this job. I really enjoyed learning about like all of the different infrastructures that were in place for kids with autism in British Columbia, and I think that was like the biggest thing that I learned from this job. A few months in, and honestly when school started, I just found myself not really enjoying the job itself. There's a lot of reasons why, which I will kind of dive deep into, but not really. I think I have another video talking about why I quit my job. It's a Let's Chat video as well, so if you're interested in that, go check it out. I'll link it somewhere in the above cards. But anyways, I definitely would say that commute time and not enough pay was a big part of it, because for me personally, although pay is not a huge factor, it's also like something that can drag me down if it's not good, if that makes sense. So pay isn't something that's incentivizing me to stay, but it can be a reason why I want to leave. That's, I think, a better way to word it. The commute time was just terrible, especially because I was driving through rush hour, so it would be like an hour there and back, and that's a lot of time to give up in a day. And also I just found like the tasks that I was given as a behavioral interventionist was not the best. This might just be in my position in particular because we did ABA style of behavioral intervention, but I just felt like I didn't know if the kids were learning and improving, and although they kind of were, I didn't feel the same sense of fulfillment that I do with other jobs and my other teaching positions. So yeah, that's honestly why I ended up quitting, and now I have more time to divest into YouTube, which I'm really excited about for this summer and also in 4th year. But yeah, I really enjoy working, but I've kind of also learned this year that it's really important to prioritize my own time as well and not have so much time given to other people. I think I've talked about this in another video as well, but if you're interested, you can try this activity where you kind of think about your time as a cup. So you only have so much time in a day. We only have 24 hours, and then you have to subtract time for sleep and eating and all that stuff, but you have a cup, and some of your biggest responsibilities are your rocks in your cup. So for me, for example, that would be school, being a student, that would be like working my part-time job as my math tutor, also like relaxing. That's a big stone that I like to have because I love to play Animal Crossing in the day. But yeah, all these main responsibilities, like maybe being a family member is one of them, like having time with your family is your rock. Then you only have so much space left for your sand, which is kind of your second priority responsibilities. For me, that would be YouTube, for example, because I always put it on the back burner if other responsibilities come up, which I really didn't like. And then your last thing is your water that goes into your cup. So these are like the last few things that you can do with your time. So maybe you like going hiking, or maybe you like going shopping, but these things are obviously put on the lower priority list when you have other things to do. For me personally, I really didn't like that all the rocks that I had or felt like I had were not my own. These were all things that I was working and doing to help other people and not much like solely for myself. So I really wanted to make YouTube a rock in my life because that was like one thing that I had full control over, and I feel like was completely my own, my little rock child, you know? So I really liked that when I eventually made the switch a couple weeks ago. Just feels a lot better, and I feel less exhausted throughout the day. I have more energy to do the things that I really enjoy, and I just feel happier, which is like honestly all you could ask for in life. Like everything you do is just to be happy. So that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this third year reflection. It was definitely different from my past reflection because this year was super different. But yeah, if you're a prospective UBC student, just know that this whole time is really crazy for everyone, and the university experience, a lot of it is based in person, so a lot of it is missing. So that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up if you did, leave a comment down below and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!
And I was like, yo.